Welcome to Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio, how to survive hidden healthcare and hospital dangers with author, speaker, and your host, Pat Rulo. Pat has over 20 years experience as a professional public speaker, and for the next hour, she's going to be your healthcare and hospital survival guide. Each week, you will say, oh, as Pat exposes and explores little-known hospital hazards, delves into the deep waters of dangerous healthcare practices, picks the brains of her good-looking and influential guests, all guaranteed to keep you and your family safe in today's fragmented healthcare system. The Speak Up and Stay Alive radio program is intended to advance health literacy by making you aware of healthcare and hospital dangers. The program is for informational purposes only and is not intended for use as diagnosis or treatment of a health problem or as a substitute for consulting a licensed medical professional. Participating as a program listener, guest, or caller should not be considered medical advice. References to any entity, product, service, website, or source of information should not be considered as an endorsement. And now your host, Pat Rulo.
I can't bear you no more, baby. I got too much pride. But I'll survive.
Hello, I'm Pat Rulo, and I will be your hostess, your healthcare navigation hostess. I'm ready to supersize this next hour with information to help you and your loved ones stay safe during any doctor or hospital visit. Who am I? I am you. I am every person who has ever been in a hospital or doctor's office and has received less than acceptable treatment. I am you, the person who got an infection during a simple outpatient procedure. I am you, the patient whose questions are ignored, who struggles to speak to the doctor as he or she has one foot out the door. I am the missed heart attack, the hospital-acquired infection, the wrong diagnosis, and the unanswered call buttons. No, the show is not about pointing a finger at hospitals, doctors, or nurses. It's not about a political agenda or party preferences. It's about you, your family, your friends, and your loved ones. It's about being informed of all the hospital hazards, what they are, how and why they happen, and what you can do about them. This show is about empowerment. It's about doing everything you can to stay safe during any and every healthcare encounter. Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. Yes, that's OH with an exclamation point. Will cause you to say, oh, as each week we delve into little-known hospital and healthcare dangers. When you understand why something happens, you are better equipped to do something to change it and prevent it from happening to you. If enough people begin to speak up, together, each of us can alter the current precarious path of today's unsafe healthcare practices. Later in the show, I'll have a guest who will explain the strongest predictor of your health status. You need to hear this. So pour yourself a cup of your favorite morning libation, sit back, and start your weekend with an O. Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. But now let's discover the hospital hazard of the week. Medication errors. The Institute of Medicine, a group that advises Congress on health matters, discloses on average, a hospital patient is subject to at least one medication error per day. Can you imagine that? It is frightening to know that medication mistakes in the hospital are not unusual. The Institute of Medicine also estimated that 1.5 million preventable medication errors occur each year, a number that is likely underestimated. And that doesn't account for doctor's office, pharmacy, or patient mistakes. My mom survived a doozy. One morning, an extra talkative nurse came into the hospital room, rambling on about her weekend. During her discourse, she confused two of the many IVs that were keeping my mom alive. She started an epinephrine drip, a drug that increases heart rate. At the time, I didn't know epinephrine was a high-alert drug that carries a black box warning, a heightened risk of causing serious harm if it's used in error. While distracting herself with random chatter, the nurse set the pump to drip at a much higher antibiotic rate. The yakking nurse left the room, unaware of her error. Shortly after, my daughter noticed a sharp increase in Mom's heart rate and blood pressure. We quickly called for the nurses, and they checked all of the IVs. They found the epinephrine dripping at the incorrect rate and stopped it. Then they tracked down the problem-causing nurse. Meantime, another young nurse in the crowd attempted to console us by saying, well, at least we caught it before the entire bag was administered. My mom was hanging on by a thread already, and this event only caused additional trauma. I was livid, not only at the mistake, but by the attempt to brush it off by saying that it could have been worse. This story illustrates the importance of having an advocate with you, someone else to act as another set of eyes, ears, and mouth. There are 5 rules for the correct administration of medication, and they are the right patient, right drug, right dose, right route, and at the right time. Then there are 9 stages of the medication process. If these criteria are not met, there will be a consequence. Multiply this by the enormous amount of daily pills, injections, and IVs given by a roving team of doctors and nurses, and you have a recipe for trouble. Basic probability theory tells us, given enough steps, any process will break down in time. Well, the question now becomes, how and why do medication errors happen? 2 common causes of medication errors are sloppy handwriting or the use of abbreviations, especially concerning the dosage. This reminds me of a story about a gentleman named Chuck. Chuck went to his doctor because of a bad earache. The doctor examined him and said, "Yes, I can take care of this. My nurse will be in shortly to administer your first dose of medicine I'm going to prescribe." And with that, the doctor walked out of the examination room. A few moments later, a nurse popped in, doctor's orders in hand, and said, "Okay, remove your pants, put this gown on with the opening in the back, lay face down on the table, and I will be right back." Chuck's eyes opened wide and he stammered, what? The nurse sighed and repeated her directions. Once again, confused Chuck said, But why? I don't understand." The nurse huffed and showed Chuck the doctor's orders. Then she snapped, "Look, the orders say administer 4 drops in the rear." Well, it wasn't to be the rear at all, but rather the right ear. The doctor's messy handwriting and the use of the letter R as an abbreviation for the word right looked as if it said rear. Talk about one of the 5 rules for correct medication delivery. This was a case of the wrong route. How many of us would have said something? How many of us would have thought, "Oh, well, the doctor knows best. Maybe there is a reason for this unusual route"? The moral of the story is Chuck should not have let his doctor leave the room until Chuck asked a few questions. What are you prescribing? Can you write that down for me? How much will I take? For how long? How is it administered? What are the side effects? Remember this story and don't be a Chuck at your next doctor visit. Medication errors usually involve the nursing staff. Nurses are the front line when it comes to administering doctor's orders and are usually the last ones who stand between the medication and you or the patient. A problem that many nurses share with me is that sometimes they feel uncomfortable to raise any questions or concerns to clarify an order. Why? Because some doctors, pharmacists, or higher-level nurses act like bullies and frighten them by responding with anger, shouting, or other negative behavior. But that's another topic for another time. The nurse's role in medication safety is also a challenging one, given the fact that nurses are often overworked and understaffed. And finally, those at the highest risk for error are patients who choose not to ask questions, do not know what medications they're taking, and blindly rely on the hospital staff to do their jobs correctly. Well, how can you protect yourself? Keep a written log of all your current medications. I've created a way for you to do this using our patient safety logs that you can find on the SpeakUpAndStayAlive.com website. Upon admission to the hospital, you will need this information. Here is something I learned during my mom's 4-month hospital stay. I discovered this a little late in the game, but once I did, it made my life so much easier. It's called MARS. No, not the planet. The nurses use a medication administration record sheet, and the abbreviation is called MARS. This is a daily list of medications and dosages that tell the nurses which medications to give you throughout the day. If the doctor changes or discontinues a drug, that change is reflected on the next day's MARS. You or your advocate can ask for these forms each morning so you can observe and track the continuity of medications. Now you'll know what medications are prescribed, what dosages, and what time of day they should be given to you. So if something is missed or incorrect, you, either the patient or the advocate, will know about it. Store your daily MARS in a folder. The Patient Safety Logs folder at the SpeakUpAndStayAlive.com website is perfect for this. Remember to take your current copy of Mars with you if you transfer to a different floor or a location, because proper medication transfer does not always happen. I know this. Speak up if you don't get medication when you should. This is the most common of drug errors. Cross-reference each pill with what you have documented in your patient safety logs. You have every right to refuse a medication that you feel might be given to you in error. I admired one family on my mom's floor. They insisted the medication be brought to their room in the initial packaging from the pharmacy. You can ask your nurses not to open the pill wrappers before they bring them to you. This is just another way to protect yourself and your loved ones. Your vigilance doesn't end when your hospital stay is over. Understand which drugs you are supposed to take when you leave the hospital. Ask about the drugs you have at home and if you should continue to take them. You can find out if you are taking any black box warning medications by going to the free stuff page at the speakupandstayalive.com website and go to the high alert medications link. On that same page, there are also links to help you learn about error-prone abbreviations, drug interactions, pill identifiers, medications that look alike, sound alike, and more. In the end, you and your advocate are the best weapons against medication errors. And with that, let's hear some legal news you can use. With the new year right around the corner, many people make a list of New Year's resolutions. Well, here's one to add to your list. Make plans for your legal needs, such as preparing a healthcare power of attorney, a living will, and a financial power of attorney. Whom can you trust to prepare these for you? Each week, you hear from my friends at Schraff & King, located on Somme Center Road in Willoughby Hills, Ohio. Listen as I spend the next 2 minutes with David King as we talk about a financial power of attorney. Then, after the show, arrange for a time to check this off your New Year's resolution list. Welcome to the show, David.
Thanks for having me, Pat.
David, can you explain to us what is a financial power of attorney?
Financial power of attorney is a legal document that people use to help handle their financial and business affairs. It is a significant document that oftentimes includes far-reaching powers given to another person, enabling them to act on the other's behalf. The person who gives the power of attorney is called the principal, and the person given the powers to act on the other's behalf is referred to as an agent or an attorney in fact.
Why would a person need a power of attorney?
A financial power of attorney would be needed if the individual is no longer able to manage his or her own affairs.
When does a financial power of attorney begin and when does it end?
That depends. The individual who is executing the power of attorney in consultation with legal counsel can decide when the power of attorney becomes effective and when it terminates. The power of attorney can begin effective immediately upon the execution of the document, and it can remain in effect no longer than the lifetime of the individual signing it. However, it can start at a later date under what is called a springing power of attorney, which essentially means it springs into effect at a later date or upon the occurrence of a certain event. And the principal signing the power of attorney can also provide for a termination at some point in time before death. Like many or most legal documents, the power of attorney can be modified or revoked at any time by the principal, providing they have the capacity to do so.
If our listeners want more information about a financial power of attorney, how would they get more information from you?
We can be reached at 440-585-1600 or at our website at www.schraffking.com.
It's always great to visit with you, David. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks so much, Pat.
After the show, be sure to visit the website, speakupandstayalive.com, for more life-saving information. Purchase the book that thousands of folks like you have already read. It's called Speak Up and Stay Alive. I wrote it after horrific personal experiences, 4 years of research, and the desire to help others avoid what I witnessed. Take the book to the hospital with you. Just from the cover alone, it is guaranteed to start a conversation with your healthcare providers, and that's important. Let everyone know that you are concerned about hospital safety and infections. You'll no longer be the knee surgery in room 202 or the heart attack in room 301. You will be viewed as an informed and empowered patient. You'll stand out, and that's what you want. Without saying a word, your doctors and nurses will know that you are special. So go to speakupandstayalive.com to purchase the book, or is available in person at all of our speaking events. To help your group, organization, business, or church stay safe during any healthcare or hospital experience, invite me to speak. Our presentations are lively, interactive, fast-paced, and about as fun as hospital safety can be. Email us at speak@speakupandstayalive.com or call 440-725-5462. And now, back to the show. 2 decades of research indicate that today's health information is presented in a way that is not usable. Most adults have difficulty understanding everyday health information that is routinely found in our healthcare facilities, media, and by our doctors and nurses. We all know how hard it is to choose a health insurance plan or even choose which over-the-counter painkiller to use. In fact, according to research from the U.S. Department of Education, only 12% of English-speaking adults in the United States have proficient health literacy skills. Today in our studio, we have a guest who is well-versed when it comes to health literacy. She is Karen Commander from St. Vincent Charity Medical Center. Karen has 30 years nursing experience in critical care and education, and has been the director of St. Vincent's Health Literacy Institute since 2007. Welcome, Karen. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Pat. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure. Karen, I've heard that health literacy is the strongest predictor of a person's health status. When people hear the word literacy, they think of reading, writing, and basic math, but health literacy is more than that. How do you describe health literacy, and why is it a predictor of a person's health status?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned literacy and the term health literacy, because I think it's really important that we make a distinction here. Even healthcare providers today in the community are still confused about what health literacy actually means, and I think it's because of the word literacy. So when we think of literacy, we know that most people define that as the ability to read and write. But also there's a little bit more to that definition. It's a skill in a particular subject. So here I like to use the analogy computer literacy, because most people understand what that means. Right. Someone, if they're computer literate, they understand the computer. So when we're talking about health literacy, we need to start thinking the same way.
What is the scope of the problem, and why is health literacy important?
Health literacy, first of all, I want to give you the formal definition. From the Institute of Medicine, they define health literacy as an individual ability to obtain, process, and understand basic health information and services needed to make appropriate health decisions. So here, that formal definition puts a lot of pressure on the individual or the consumer. So really with health literacy, what we want to get out there is it's more of a shared responsibility. Not only is it the patient's ability to obtain, process, and understand, but it's also the healthcare provider's capacity, ability to provide that information in a language and communicate in a way that a patient can understand and then act on health information.
Right, and that doesn't always happen.
Really, when we look at the scope of the problem, why it's important, one interesting thing to note is that 80% of the medical information that's given to patients is forgotten immediately when they walk out the door. And I know that probably doesn't surprise a lot of people. But what's a little bit disturbing is that half of the information that's remembered is incorrect. So that is a big problem. Secondly, you mentioned about how 12% of the population, only 12% is proficient in health literacy. So that means nearly 9 of 10 of American adults right now have low health literacy. So they have difficulty in obtaining and understanding health information. Research to date right now really has put a big focus on literacy. And I think that's important because the barrier of low literacy truly is a barrier that we have to keep in mind, especially when we consider that the average American reads at an 8th grade level, and about 20% of Americans read at a 5th grade level or below. Yet most medical information is written at a 12th grade level or above.
We say some of the problems concerning low health literacy are not understanding written educational information. What other common health literacy problems are there?
Yeah, probably not understanding written information is a big one, but also the multiple forms that patients have to fill out. If anyone has looked at an informed consent form recently, you'll see a lot of that is written in a lot of jargon, difficult to understand. Another big problem is not understanding the words that the healthcare provider is saying. So many healthcare providers use that medical jargon. A big one is not understanding perhaps when or how to take their medicine. I've had patients say to me, well, my doctor told me to take this twice a day, but didn't tell me how to take it. So do I take 2 in the morning, 2 at night, 1 in the morning, 1 at night? So all of this can be very confusing for patients.
What are some other barriers then that patients encounter?
Well, there's a few different barriers when we're talking about health literacy. Number one is access. When we consider the multitude of forms, just having to navigate through the system to access the specialist that you need, oftentimes folks try to just avoid all those forms and they find that the emergency room is easiest, so they end up going there. Another barrier would be a barrier to diagnosis. And here I'm talking about misunderstandings between the physician and the patient. A patient may provide information that's not correct. For example, I know of one patient who saw her physician. He asked her what medicine she was on, and she told him she was on lithium. Ooh. And that is a medication for a psychiatric disorder. Well, in fact, she was on Lipitor. So if the physician did not dig a little bit deeper, he may have thought that he was treating a patient with a bipolar disorder. So a lot of miscommunication there. Third barrier would be to treatment. And here we're looking at cultural barriers, language barriers being a big issue. And patients misunderstanding treatment directions really can lead to serious mistakes or noncompliance.
With all of these barriers, what are providers doing today to improve the situation?
Well, right now, the recommendation really has come in the health literacy field. And really the study of health literacy is fairly new, over just about the last 10 to 20 years. So a lot of healthcare providers aren't aware of the issue. So many right now are still using that medical jargon, still, writing materials that are too high for patients to read. So really the goal is from our Health Literacy Institute at St. Vincent, is to do training. A couple of the things that we've instituted were training all of the physicians. We have resident physicians there. That's a teaching hospital. So we're doing a lot of training to encourage patient-centered visits, to try to stay away from just when you're visiting with the patient, stop just the monologue. You want to have a dialogue with the patient. Big key one is to use plain language. Again, so many times instead of using the word hypertension, you could just say high blood pressure. Another area is focus only on key messages. Too often healthcare providers think that they have to give every bit of information there is on a certain disease. And we've already said that patients forget 80% of what they hear. So you want to focus maybe only 1 to 3 key messages at each visit. Again, you want to verify the patient's understanding, but you want to avoid things like, so do you understand? Because then what do patients say back to you?
Yes.
Yes. Or, so do you have any questions? What will they say? No. Right. So you want to employ what is called the teach back technique. And what this means is asking the patient to repeat back or state in their own words what it is that you've just taught them. Right. That's the only way that you're really going to know if they understand what it is that you've taught them. And again, of course, using patient-friendly education materials is another key strategy.
So there's a lot of work that needs to be done and that's currently being done.
Yes.
Yeah. As a patient, what can we do to improve our healthcare experience?
Well, I think the most important thing that I can say to someone who's a patient or going to a doctor's visit is, number one, know that this is your body, your life, that you need to empower yourself to ask the questions. Too often, patients come into a doctor's office or a hospital are intimidated by the white lab coat. They'll be in a restaurant and ask all kinds of questions about the different items on a menu, but they come into a doctor's office and when asked if they have any questions, they say no. There is a movement from the Partnership from Clear Health Communication, which is encouraging all patients to ask 3 questions. And the program's called Ask Me 3. So if one thing I can tell our listeners right now is if you do go to visit a doctor or go to the hospital, try to remember that these are the 3 questions that you need to ask. Number 1, what is my main problem? Number 2, what do I need to do about it? And number 3, why is it important for me to do it?
Excellent advice.
Another couple of things that I can recommend is be sure to write down your questions before you go to the physician's office or come into the hospital, or bring a friend or family member. Oftentimes, if you're diagnosed with a new condition, you may have anxiety about that. You might be scared. So you need another second set of ears to hear some of the information.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's invaluable information. A few questions, just some personal questions maybe. If you or a loved one were preparing for a hospital visit, what would your concerns be?
That's a very good question. I can tell you I do have experience with this, helping family members. I do have 3 siblings with chronic health conditions. And so there's been many hospital visits through the years. And I have to tell you, I can't tell you how many times that I've been there and thought, well, thank goodness I'm a nurse. We're able to help advocate for the patient, explain things that may be difficult to understand when someone's using language that, is medical jargon. So really, I think one of the most important things is just having an advocate there with you.
Right. What would you pack? Okay. What is your greatest patient safety fear and why?
Probably infection would be a big one, because I think that a lot of patients aren't aware of the fact that you can get a lot of infections when you enter the hospital. So again, this all comes back to patients being advocates for themselves, that if they see a hospital caregiver maybe not washing their hands, to stop them and say, please wash your hands, to really speak up and say what's important.
And that's a hard thing to do sometimes. You feel like you're going to be empowered, just simply, as you spoke about the person at the restaurant that feels comfortable asking those kind of questions, but then they get in front of their doctor and all of a sudden you feel frightened to ask to please wash your hands.
Right. But please remember, it's okay to ask.
It is okay to ask. Well, tell us how our listeners can contact you or find out more about you and your efforts regarding health literacy.
The best way is to visit our website, and you can go to www.stvincentcharity.com/OHLC. Remember, again, like I said, this is your life, your body, your health. You have the right to understand the information that you're given. So I would ask our listeners to remember to ask the questions of their physicians, especially remembering those Ask Me 3 questions. Right. What is my main problem? What do I need to do about it? And why is it important for me to do it?
We've heard from Karen Commander, St. Vincent Charity Medical Center. And thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Pat. Thanks for having me.
We interrupt our program to bring you a special broadcast.
I'll get more dum-dum-dum-dummy than I ever got from you.
Let's spend the next 2 minutes with our resident cleaning and infection preventionist, Daryl Hicks, consultant and author of the book, Infection Prevention for Dummies. Welcome to the show, Daryl.
Good to be here, Pat.
Daryl, what does it mean to clean green?
Green cleaning is one of the new waves, and people are more and more interested in the chemicals that they're exposing themselves and their families to. So cautionary statement on that is beware of those who call themselves green but have no third-party registration. There's the Green Seal and a couple of others that will verify that the ingredients in that cleaner are safe and won't cause harm to humans or animals or water if it was poured down the drain. Green cleaning is using not just the chemicals, but the processes, and the way that we clean is using single cloth and never reaching in and dirtying the water with a dirty cloth. That is one of the examples of green cleaning, is that, you are using the best products and the best processes in order to clean, that keeps you and those around you safe from some of the chemical allergies that are out there today. An example of something that is a green cleaner, pretty much just it by itself and water, is microfiber. There's the magic of microfiber, and just water will do the work that a regular cotton rag and some cleaners will do. So be wise, and you can order my book, and I have a whole section in the book, a whole chapter on the power of green cleaning. So that's an opportunity for you to learn more.
That's great information, especially about microfiber. Thank you, Daryl. How can we learn more about you and your book, Infection Prevention for Dummies?
My website is www.darrellhicks.com. That is Darrell, DARRELHICKS.com. You can find out how to get in touch with me or order the book there.
Well, thank you, Darrell. I encourage our listeners to check out your website and your book, and your blog has lots of excellent information. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Pat.
I get more from that dumb dummy than I ever got it from you. Yeah, I get more from a dummy than I get from you.
Well, this week's Radio Opinion Poll is based on an article by Consumer Reports called, "Can You Read This Drug Label?" And it centers around Karen Commander's topic about health literacy as it relates to medication errors. To give you a bit of background, Consumer Reports compares 5 different pharmacies all prescribing the same drug and explores the variations between them, such as instructions on the bottle, warnings, no warnings, and even the use of valuable space on the prescription bottle to display the pharmacy's hours. When health literacy issues intersect with medication, it's easy to see why there are about 1.5 million preventable medication errors each year. We asked what you think. Here are a few responses that were emailed to us. Confused in Canton asks, if a label says that my medication should be taken 3 times a day, how am I supposed to know exactly when to take it? Should I take 1 pill every hour on the hour for 3 consecutive hours? What about 1 pill in the morning and 2 right before bed? Well, Confused, that is a very good question, and I'm sure a common one. Information as important as medication instruction, dosage, and route should be printed in a very specific and simple manner. If the directions written on a prescription or label seem confusing to you, ask your doctor or your pharmacist to explain until you fully understand how to take the medication. It's better to ask than to guess. Joe, my production guru, is signaling to me that we have a caller. Well, we've got Lisa on the phone from Ohio. Lisa, do you have a rant or rave for us today?
I have a rant.
Uh-oh, here we go.
Well, I'm a registered nurse, and I've been employed in like 3 different facilities. And it's been my experience that medication errors occur because sometimes nurses are afraid to clarify orders with the doctor. Like I had experience at work where the nurses and we were debating whether or not to call this one particular doctor because he lashes out at us. He's just completely unapproachable. I think that when there's a problem like this, it's a delay in care, potentially a poor prognosis for the patient, and we hope that it doesn't happen, but it could probably lead to a patient prematurely expiring.
Whoa, that's scary. Do you have any suggestions, Lisa?
Well, we do have computer charting available now in a lot of facilities, and a lot of facilities are trying to get on board with computer charting. However, there's typos with that. We're the doctor's eyes and ears, so if we see a typo or something that doesn't apply to a particular patient, we should feel comfortable to be able to call a doctor and say, hey, doctor, this is the situation. Is this something that you really wanted to order for the patient? Also, I think that nurses and doctors should not be segregated anymore. We should work as a team to have professional meetings so that we can have unified care, ultimately leading in breaking the communication barrier between the doctors and the nurses, leading to a harmonious relationship, therefore leading to good patient outcomes and outstanding patient care.
Well, I appreciate that. It should be a team effort, and I agree with you 100%. Thank you for calling us, Lisa, and I hope things improve, and I hope you can take some steps to make things better, and I appreciate your calling.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thanks, Lisa.
Fear the Wheelchair is everyone's favorite game, heard each week on Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio.
Let's see if Pat and Bob and Joe are still playing.
Bacteria like MRSA and C. diff can be found on any surface in a hospital. This makes the wheelchairs that grace the front doors of almost every hospital high-touch and highly contaminated vehicles, capable of spreading infections all over the place. So, the wheelchair is now this show's representation of all hospital dangers, kind of like our mascot.
It's time to play everyone's favorite game, Fear the Wheelchair.
Oh, yes, it is that time. Listen as Joe reads some true or false statements. And then even though I can't hear you, shout out your answer along with Bob. Is the statement right or wrong? All right, Bob.
Right or wrong, when patients leave the hospital, 41% of them have pending test results.
What do you think, Bobby?
Oh, I think that's too high. That's wrong.
Oh, Bob, that is true. And many of the results require urgent medical attention. Remember, discharge from the hospital is a very dangerous time with little to no coordination of care. Take the time to read and understand everything surrounding your discharge. Bring an advocate with you and don't leave if you still have unanswered questions.
Fear the wheelchair. Right or wrong, clothing is a common carrier for infections, especially MRSA.
What is it, Bob?
Oh, that's right. Also, you got C. diff. It's part of it, too.
Oh, Bob's doing good today. You're right. When doctors and nurses lean over patients who have MRSA and C. diff, their clothing and uniforms pick up bacteria, allowing transfer to other patients. MRSA and C. diff have extensive life with the ability to linger on clothing and surfaces long after a hospital room is unoccupied.
Right or wrong, as many as half of all patients admitted to the hospital have malnutrition to some degree.
What say you, Bob?
Oh, that's wrong.
Oh, no, Bob. As crazy as it sounds, that is right. Before a hospital stay, ask your doctor about starting nutritional supplements and include plenty of fresh and organic fruits and vegetables. Juicing's another good idea, Bob. It's smart to be as healthy as you can before entering the hospital. Insist upon nutritional evaluation upon admission and ask for continuous evaluation.
Right or wrong, as many as 9 out of 10 bills from hospitals and medical providers include costly errors.
What's your answer, Bob?
That's definitely right.
Yes, that is right. And if you have a question about an item on your bill, call the provider's office directly for an explanation. Ask for an itemized bill. Hospital billing departments must send you a free, detailed bill at your request under the Patient's Bill of Rights adopted by the American Hospital Association.
Right or wrong, the risk of infection increases 3 to 7% each day when the catheter is left in place for more than 2 or 3 days.
What do you think, Bob?
I'm thinking that may be wrong.
Oh, no. That is right. If you are still using a urine catheter 48 hours after surgery, find out when it will be removed. It should not be left in place as a convenience for the nursing staff. Each day it remains increases your chances of acquiring an infection.
Right or wrong, when it comes to finding out any test results, don't assume that no news is good news.
What do you think, Bobby?
That's right.
Absolutely. Of course that's right. You have every right to request and receive information about your test results. And if you're told that you will not hear anything unless there is a problem, ask for a phone call no matter what the results say. Remember, you have rights, and you heard about it here on Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. Well, thank you guys for playing my super fun game.
Fear the wheelchair.
You are listening to Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. I am Pat Rulo, where the boys and I are keeping you safe during any healthcare or hospital encounter. The holiday season is always a special time to reach out and share with others. Listen as I spend 2 minutes with Lisa Scottice Gallagher, the Director of Volunteers, as she explains how you can become an important part of someone's life by offering your time and interests as a Hospice of the Western Reserve volunteer. Welcome to the show, Lisa.
Hi, Pat.
Lisa, volunteers are so vital to the mission and outreach provided by Hospice of the Western Reserve. How many volunteers do you currently have?
Well, Pat, we are very fortunate here at Hospice of the Western Reserve. We have over 2,000 volunteers, and they range between the ages of 13, and I believe our oldest volunteer who's serving right now is 92 years old. They come from various backgrounds and all different walks of life. Volunteers are equal members of the team, and they're really held to the same standards as paid staff. So what we do is we have a very comprehensive volunteer education classes that we offer to help them to be prepared to serve.
How do the volunteer education classes prepare these volunteers to support the mission?
Volunteers are really limited only by their imagination. So whatever it is that they want to serve in whatever capacity, we will prepare them through the volunteer education. If they want to work directly with patients and families, then they would go through a series of classes that totals 20 hours. Those classes will prepare them in the areas of communication, in death and dying and to know what it is like to serve somebody who's at end of life. We have opportunities for them to learn about vigil, which is sitting with patients in their final hours, and certainly to learn some active listening skills. If volunteers want to work in an indirect way, still supporting the mission, but not directly at patients and families' bedside, then they go through 6 hours of education. And then after they go through their 6 hours of education, they can work in the community and their speakers bureau. Perhaps they would want to work at our resale shop. Volunteers last year provided over 60,000 hours of volunteer service, and we do equate that to a dollar amount. We're really happy to say that that was over $1.4 million of donated services. There is no minimum or maximum that a volunteer can serve. We're grateful for whatever time you have and whatever ways you're willing to serve.
Lisa, it sounds like there are so many wonderful opportunities. How can our listeners find out more?
Well, we have frequent daytime, evening, and weekend classes available, so I would ask that you call our volunteer office. That number is 216-486-6881, or you could also visit hospicewr.org/volunteers.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Lisa.
Thank you very much, Pat. It's my pleasure.
You are listening to Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. I am Pat Rouleau, your hostess and author of the book, Speak Up and Stay Alive, the Patient Advocate Hospital Survival Guide, available only at our website, speakupandstayalive.com. If you know me, you know that I only bring you the best of the best when it comes to our guests. Bonnie Cantor Berman was appointed director of the Ohio Department of Aging in January 2011. She believes in the concept of preventive gerontology. Welcome to our show, Bonnie.
Thank you so much for having me.
In your introduction, we talked about the words preventive gerontology, and that's a word combination that one doesn't hear very often. What does that mean?
I know.
Yeah, what does that mean?
What it means is that there are so many things that we can do to help ourselves age in the most healthy and functional manner possible. A lot of that really is in our hands. What we know now is what we do to ourselves counts far more than our genes in how we age. When we talk about preventive gerontology, it's never too late to start something, but it's also never too early. And so the term really implies a lifespan approach to aging. I'll give you an example. One of the best ways to prevent osteoporosis when you are an elder is to drink milk when you're a teen. And so the question is, how do we connect those two? How do we help people understand that what you do throughout your life truly does have an impact on how you age? And that's really the basis and the crux of the term preventive gerontology. And I think it's such an important term because I have never, ever met anyone who wants to be sicker or frailer or less well. So if we can start early, we can have such an impact. When my daughters were little and they weren't drinking their milk, I used to say to them, oh, you're going to be the richest people when you're older. And they would say, why? I'd say, because you're going to find that quarter before anybody else. And I would explain how they would be hunched over. And I got to tell you, they are the best milk drinkers.
Oh, my gosh. I'll have to remember that. Basically, it's becoming actively involved in our own aging process, is what it sounds like.
Yes. The problem is, or the kind of the conundrum, is that we tend not to think of ourselves as older adults. Mm-hmm. It's just not a part of our life that we plan for. Think of how few people really have enough money for retirement, have really thought about retirement. And so to think throughout your lifespan that what you do is going to have an impact, it is harder than it sounds.
Absolutely. Are there any resources that the state offers to help folks be involved with preventive gerontology?
I would suggest that folks go directly to our website, aging.ohio.gov. We have links there to all of these kinds of resources, so we really are a one-stop shop.
Well, thank you, Bonnie, for sharing some exciting ideas and resources with us today. And, you know, with the holidays upon us, many of us will be spending time with our elders, family, and friends, making it the perfect time, I think, to assess that person's situation and think in terms of preventive gerontology. And I hope our listeners can use your resources to help them move their loved one's life in that positive direction. And I so appreciate your being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Would you like to be on the radio? Yes, you could be featured as a weekly guest expert on my show. I know that I am not the expert in all things, and I want to be sure that everything I share with our listeners is the best information available. So if you or someone you know has something of value to say that can help folks either stay safe, be smart, or make their lives a little easier or healthier, then contact me for all of the details. Email speak@speakupandstayalive.com or call 440-725-5462. Well, here's a Speak Up and Stay Alive O for you. It's called Rights and Wrongs. Did you know that you have the right to request either dedicated or disposable blood pressure cuffs and stethoscopes? By dedicated, I mean when you check into your room, ask for a clean or disposable blood pressure cuff and keep it hanging at your bedside to be used only by you during your hospital stay. It is dedicated to you only. There are such things as paper disposable blood pressure cuffs designed to reduce cross-contamination and infections. Ask your hospital nurse or doctor about this option. The same goes for a stethoscope. At the very least, your healthcare provider should change the gauze-like cover on the stethoscope prior to putting it against your skin. Or the metal face of the stethoscope should be wiped with an antiseptic wipe each time between patient use. If you don't see this happening, ask, has that stethoscope been cleaned? Remember, you have rights, and you heard about it here on Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. How's that for an O moment? Well, today we discussed medication errors and discovered why and how they happen, sloppy handwriting, abbreviations, and the over-reliance that the doctor or nurse is always right. Remember, if you are a hospital patient or the advocate, you should ask for the daily MARS. This is a daily list of medications and dosages that indicate to the nursing staff which drugs to administer to you throughout the day. And if you don't know what's prescribed for you, how will you know if something's missing or incorrect? And our guest, Karen Commander, shared her thoughts on health literacy today and reminded us of 3 questions that we should ask our providers. What is my main problem? What do I need to do? And why is it important for me to do this? This kind of information just stresses the importance of increased patient and family education and awareness. It's all about your health literacy, not just the ability to understand medical information, but just as important, your willingness to actually do something to improve your outcome. So I applaud all of you listening today. And remember, you heard this on Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. And if you missed some of today's show, simply go to the radio link at the speakupandstayalive.com website to download and listen to today's program. You might want to do that anyway, just to help you remember more of today's sage suggestions. Start your weekend with an O, Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. And by the way, we are growing. In addition to our Cleveland shows, we will now be heard in Phoenix, Arizona, beginning in January. What a great way to start the new year. So tell all of your Arizona friends that Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio can soon be heard on KKNT AM960 The Patriot. Check the speakupandstayalive.com website for details. And let me extend a special thank you to some of the beautiful people who helped to sponsor this program. Hospice of the Western Reserve, the attorneys at Schraff & King, and Daryl Hicks, Infection Prevention for Dummies. I proudly support them and appreciate their expertise, and I certainly encourage you to contact them for all of your healthcare and legal needs. And finally, I wish each of you and your families a peaceful holiday season, and of course, a happy and healthy New Year. And remember, you can listen to today's show again and again, or any other show that you missed. Just visit the radio link at the speakupandstayalive.com website. Come back next week and invite your friends. That's next Saturday morning, where you can find us 2 times. Yep, that's twice. From 7 to 8 Eastern on 1420 WHK and from 9 to 10 Eastern on WHKW, that's AM1220. Or listen live via the internet on WHKRadio.com at 7 and WHKWRadio.com at 9. I am Pat Rouleau, and I am your guide to safe and successful healthcare and hospital encounters.
The information provided in today's broadcast is for informational purposes only and was not intended for use as diagnosis or treatment of a health problem or as a substitute for consulting a licensed medical professional. Participating as a program listener, guest, or caller should not be considered medical advice. References to any entity, product, service, website, or source of information should not be considered as an endorsement. If you missed part of today's show or just want to share the information with friends, you can download a copy of the show at SpeakUpAndStayAlive.com. That's SpeakUpAndStayAlive.com. Want even more information? Purchase a copy of Pat's book at the Speak Up and Stay Alive website. Once again, it's SpeakUpAndStayAlive.com.
This is Pat Rouleau. When you get a chance, become a friend and like us on Facebook. We're called Speak Up and Stay Alive. Then post your questions and comments on our Facebook wall. We may read them next week. Who else do you know who can benefit from this life-saving information? You can keep your group, club, business, or church safe from hospital hazards. I speak live and in person, too. Our events are fun, fast-paced, interactive, and jam-packed with serious information. Your crowd will love it. Just email me at speakupandstayalive.com or call 440-725-5462. Until next week, remember to ask others to wash their hands. You have to speak up and stay alive. Call me, email me.
Survive.